and welcome to the DefSec 2022 podcast. Day one, it's Cybersecurity Day, and I tell you, the floor is abuzz. This podcast is presented by Cisco, and thanks to Cisco for bringing this conversation to the shop floor. This is a very interesting podcast because we have a guest host, Karen Hawkle. We've been trying to get Karen on the podcast forever, not as a guest, but as a host. We're really excited to have you, Karen. Welcome to the podcast, welcome to the show, and let's hope there's so many more of them. I can't wait.
Delighted to be here.
Great. And our next guest is no stranger to the ocean sector. So Moya, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, no, sure. Thank you, Rochelle. It's great to be here. Great to be here with Karen. I've known Karen for many years. We go back to the oil and gas sector in Atlantic Canada, and certainly now I've spoken to her with regards to what we're doing in offshore renewables. So my name is Moya Cahill, former CEO of Pangeo Subsea, and we just actually merged our two organizations with Kraken, so I'm Executive VP of Kraken for Service Delivery. Wow.
Kraken's been in the conversation, and Pangeo, quite a bit in the defense sector in the last number of years. What are you guys into?
We're really excited. We're the first out of the gate for the pathway to commercialization. This is an $8 million service and product opportunity where Kraken can provide its services and its products to the federal government and all the family within the federal government. So really excited to kick this off. Like I said, we're the first out of the gate, and really exciting opportunity for Kraken.
Absolutely. Are you familiar with the pathway to commercialization?
Not much, and I'm actually really interested because I've got clients that have been looking to the government of Canada as a first client, as a major client. Can you talk a little bit about your journey in there, because it's not small?
No, and certainly that my Kraken colleagues would be the best folks to bring that to the table, and so. But I do know that we've been working on this for over a year, and it was a significant, a lot of heavy lifting there, and we were awarded it just the end of July. So great opportunity for us, but it was no small feat to get to where we are.
I've never heard anything of that scope or size before.
No, absolutely, and so it was great. We're really excited to kick this off.
Well, that's a great story, and so basically the government put out a call and said, we've got these challenges. Kraken rose to the challenge, said we can do that kind of work, and the government said, well, we'd like to see you do it, and they became a partner with the government. The government tested, in this case it was Royal Canadian Navy, the fleet diving unit specifically, and they tested that technology. They liked it so much they said, we want more of it. And that's the pathway. That is a true success of the pathway to commercialization. Yeah. The Kraken is in, and Pangeo is into more than just defense. What else are you involved in?
Yeah, certainly. It's been really fun bringing our two teams together within Kraken and Pangeo. Pangeo traditionally has been involved in delivering a service. So our sensors that we're providing to the industry are looking at imaging in the subsea bed. So you marry that with Kraken's seabed sensors, which are now incorporated on the Catfish. So you have a really credible amount of synergies in that we're going out there and being able to provide data on the seabed as well as the subsea bed. So applications, oil and gas, renewable, defense, certainly. So the Pangeo team will be the delivery arm. So we're expanding our ability to deliver a broader service to the industry under the Kraken family of companies.
Then perfect segue into, you've got to be looking at wind and hydrogen in Newfoundland.
Oh yes.
With all your experience in wind in Europe, can you talk about the opportunities you see for your company, but also for the province?
Well, it's the supply chain, and we've always, we've done such a great job putting ourselves being, the Atlantic Canada on the map for oil and gas. And, it's taken time to develop that supply chain because there are certainly expectations that the operators require in that industry. And everything from safety, quality, inclusivity, gender balance, and these are all targets that we must meet. And likewise now with the offshore renewable energy, with hydrogen, our ability to step over and into those sectors, it's not difficult. It's there. And certainly from a Pangeo perspective, we recognize that when we got involved in the renewable energy sector in Europe, started out in 2014, recognizing the applications were similar to the oil and gas applications, and made it happen. And so today we're one of the leading players within that industry, not just in Europe. We followed our players into the US, into Taiwan. So we truly have a global footprint that we're delivering our services to that market.
Now, offshore wind and gas, not a lot of our guests would understand. What does an undersea robotics company see in offshore wind and gas? Explain what you bring to the table.
Yeah, so certainly, the Kraken family now can, when they're doing an installation of these offshore wind farms, they're looking for geohazards. Where are we going to drive our piles to support the turbines? Where are we going to install our cables, both those our export cables that are going into shore, as well as the inter-array cables. Mm-hmm. So they all have to be buried anywhere from 2 to 3 meters in the subsea bed, and so we also need to get a bigger idea of what's happening on the sea floor. So we'll use the Kraken Catfish and its MinSAS system, its side scan sonar, the SAS system to basically to map the sea floor to give you a broader idea of what's happening on the seabed, and then we'll narrow in with the Pangeo technology, where we're actually looking into the subsea bed. So we're actually X-raying the subsea bed. So just like an MRI will image your organs, we're actually image geohazards, whether they be boulders, whether they be unexploded ordnances. Because you got to remember, during World War II, particularly over in Europe, there over 50 million bombs were dropped between the continental Europe and United Kingdom, and that's right in the sweet spot of where they're installing all these offshore wind farms. So we've really been fortunate that our technology can transfer to those applications. Looking at what's on the seabed is super important for many industries. So and real synergies across those industries. And then, of course, looking at what's in the subsea bed and being able to image, saying that, we're seeing an anomaly there that's 2.2 meters long, 0.6 meters in diameter. We're pretty sure that's an elephant bomb that was dropped during World War II. Wow. So that's a real value proposition, and it's a one-stop shop. So we can provide the vessel, the sensors, the robotics, and deliver that minimize the interface for the client.
I'm always amazed at the things that are happening in and around Atlantic Canada.
It's crazy. I mean, I think about it. We met in the oil and gas industry in the mid-90s. So, we've gone from oil and gas, and then you went to innovation, really. You moved really fast into innovation. Wind, now you're looking at hydrogen. Any other arenas? Oh, no, of course, the military. Yeah. Any other arenas that you're looking at outside of that, like in the renewables section, for example?
Yeah. So you certainly, the defense is really important, and that has certainly been what has been driving the success of Kraken. And we're delighted the fact that we can piggyback on Kraken's success, because our sensors can be equally can support that, and vice versa. Having the Kraken products as a broader service offering, but it's a footprint. We want to ensure that we're everywhere, and so as I mentioned, we're just now entering in. We've got 2 campaigns. We're offshore now in Taiwan, acquiring data for the offshore renewable energy sector. Kraken are now moving into Australia with the Navy there, and we'll piggyback on the successes of all of our offices around the world, and providing the people, the services, and the products.
Let's stay on the people thing for a second there, because I've had the pleasure to visit Kraken both in Mount Pearl and over here in Dartmouth. Real engaged, talented workforce. Where are they coming from?
Well, it's a younger generation. I mean, it's when we moved into the Mount Pearl, it was incredible. I mean, over 100 people are there, and you walk in, and 50% of these of our staff are probably under 30, if not probably under 25, and so a different buzz in the office compared to what I was used to. Really exciting, because as a leader and as a manager, trying to get a sense of what does a younger generation look for? What do they want? From a day-to-day perspective, and trying to target that and deliver that for our team is really important. But we're getting them from our universities here locally. I mean, certainly here in Nova Scotia, in Newfoundland, we've got some great education facilities, great centers of excellence. So, people, maybe come to me and say, well, why Newfoundland? Why Nova Scotia? Well, it's because of our access and our relationships with our academia, both, from a university level as well as a technical college. And, we have it both here in Atlantic Canada. We're very fortunate and that we can build and nurture our team with from our academia, which are right here in our backyard.
It's fantastic, eh?
So you were just mentioning you were also in Hamburg last week.
Yes.
Can you talk about that? Because I have a feeling I heard a lot about Newfoundland companies going there for the first time.
Yes, yeah.
What did you experience?
Oh my gosh, well, Karen, we're used to OTC, the Offshore Technology Conference in Houston, and that was big to us. This was in the Hamburg Messe, which is spread over a footprint of 8 halls. It was brutal. I mean, it's a good thing I had 4-inch heels, because by the end of that week, I was down to my last inch. It was really hard. But I mean, a great show of representation from Newfoundland and Nova Scotia. John Risley was there with his new initiative there on hydrogen and offshore and wind, and getting a real feel of what's happening in Europe. Because I mean, the Europeans, rightly or wrong, I mean, they are leaders. The Norwegians were the leaders in the oil and gas sector, and still are. They're breaking ground everywhere. And certainly it's the Germans and the Danish that are really driving it for offshore wind. But once again, you saw very similar faces that we would see at the oil and gas show. All of the tier 1 operators are all coming together, and they recognize where the future is. And so it's a real eye opener for us Atlantic Canadians to recognize where the future is going, and we've got to get on that bus. We got to get on the bus and support that footprint, that carbon zero footprint for 2050. And if we're not there, guess what? The boat's going to be gone. And we've got the capability here in Atlantic Canada, and with the support that the federal government is giving us, and there's no reason why we can't be leaders in this.
There's absolutely no reason why we can't be leaders. You're absolutely right. And I think that you hit the nail on the head. Our size is to our advantage. It's our ability to have government, academia, industry in the room at the same time. We know their names.
Yeah.
We go out to dinner with them tonight. We are in the conversation all the time, and it's in our ability right now to be global leaders.
Without doubt. It's in our skill set, our experience. We understand big projects. We can bring that to the table elsewhere. Are you hearing much about partnerships? Are these European companies knowing, coming into Atlantic Canada, partnerships will be part of this?
Yeah, absolutely. They realize that's really important, and the oil and gas sector recognized that as well. They were always talking about bums and seats, and that was really important for that transfer of technology. I mean, I remember when I was still a student at Memorial doing engineering, and my first job got out. It was with Mr. Dobbin, Craig Dobbin, and we were responsible for transfer technology. And so I was shipped over to Norway for many years to transfer that technology, then bring it back to Newfoundland, bring it back to Canada, and it works. It's really important to understand partnerships. So we've got, this afternoon in town this week, we've got Mainstream Renewables, which is a large Irish offshore renewable operator, and they're here in Atlantic Canada because they're interested in what's happening with the offshore wind here. And so I got my door was knocked yesterday, and they want to talk to us because they've heard about our technology. They've heard how we were leading survey in Europe and in the US, and they want to hear about firsthand how we can help them here in Atlantic Canada.
Well, what a wonderful conversation here at the DevSec 2022 podcast. Incredible to be in conversation with two thought leaders like yourself. I really appreciate your time, both of you. Thank you for co-hosting with me today.
Good fun.
Absolute privilege of mine. Moya, unbelievable the work that you're doing. Keep it up. You're making Atlantic Canada and Canada proud. You're doing great work for all of us.
Well, thank you, Alan. It's a real pleasure to be here. Chat to you both.